Phineas and Ferb is a show I frequently watched about 10 years ago. It did wonders at inspiring my imagination to soar into places it never had. I remember the first day of summer some 9 years ago when I naively decided I want to build a roller coaster. And I can't tell you how many times I went searching for my cat because I was convinced he was fighting crime for some secret agent pet organization. Needless to say, this show meant a lot to me as a kid. But of course, like all good things, after the first couple years of the 2010s, my love of Phineas and Ferb slowly came to an end. That is, until Disney Plus came out last year. Now, I don't know what you guys have been doing during these 104 plus days of quarantine, but me personally, I've been watching a lot of Phineas and Ferb, and I think I've nailed down exactly what makes it so great. Every single episode is exactly the same. Phineas and Ferb build a thing. Candace tries to tell Mom. Perry fights Doofenshmirtz, which somehow activates the disappearance of Phineas and Ferb's creation. Candace fails at busting her brothers and they all eat pie. How could a show with such a tight structure go on for 4 seasons and be just as fun to watch as it was the first time? Well, the answer lies in the comedy.
Hey, sweetheart, how'd you like to take a ride on a real bike? She's 16!
I am convinced that this show has some role in Gen Z's love of irony. I mean, this show is just incredible with its self-aware random humor. It uses comedy as a self-defeating mechanism to say, hey, I know you know what's about to happen, but let's throw in something that I know you don't think is about to happen.
Candace, we're in a hurry. Just get on the trike
There's
and we'll go.
no way
Get on the trike!
And its use of repetition to make fun of its predictable structure is what ironically holds the entire show together.
What kind of a plumber are you? A platypus plumber? Perry the platypus plumber? Perry the
By using wacky, out-of-nowhere humor, it subverts your expectations in a lighthearted tone which keeps the audience engaged despite its predictability.
And I still think you should have added more green onions.
Well, next time you can do all the cooking, and I'll stand around coming up with evil plans that ultimately fail.
Honestly, I don't even know if those sentences do the comedy in this show justice. Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy are just pure comedic geniuses. Side note, if you like Phineas and Ferb, watch Milo Murphy's Law on Disney Plus. It's made by the same people, it has a similar comedy style, and it's just as great for so many different reasons. Weird Al Yankovic voices the main character, and yes, there is a crossover episode, so go watch it please, we need a season 3. So naturally, brand new Phineas and Ferb content is gonna pique my interest, and that's where 2020 has led us. Candace against the universe. This entire video is gonna have spoilers, so go watch this movie on Disney Plus before watching this video. So yeah, this movie's pretty great. I wasn't really expecting to dislike it since it's Phineas and Ferb, and if I'm being honest, it's really hard to be critical of something as goofy as Phineas and Ferb. It's like Emperor's New Groove. Sure, it's not some artistic masterpiece, but how can you hate it when it's got this super hilarious comedy flow? And since this franchise relies a lot on its comedy, I decided to record my first reaction to this movie because as much as I can attempt to explain why the comedy works, most of it is just what makes me laugh upon first impression. Welcome everyone, this is my reaction to Phineas and Ferb, the movie Candace Against the Universe. It's currently like 5 in the morning. I swear I'm the only person in my age group who's willing to wake up at 5 in the morning to watch Phineas and Ferb. What holds this movie together is which plot points they decide to focus on. After spending nearly an entire summer in the shadow of Phineas and Ferb's creation, Candace is starting to feel insecure about her self-worth. It's a pretty serious topic to go down, and I was quite surprised when it was presented.
Your obsession with busting them is really just a distraction from how you feel about yourself. You mean like a tiny
God, wait, are they actually gonna go this route?
route?
This is honestly something that's quite overdue, even if we already know how it's gonna end. Candace is gonna realize that her brothers care about her, and in turn she's gonna realize that she cares about them, because we've already seen this numerous times throughout the show. But this wasn't even the main plot they decided to focus on. Instead, they went for something downright insane. These Return of the Jedi looking goblins need carbon dioxide to power this mind-controlling plant so their leader, super big doctor, can fool the entire planet. Yep, that's pretty weird. But then again, this entire show is pretty weird. Hallelujah, the writers haven't forgotten how to write Phineas and Ferb. When you've got a show where 2 kids spend every day building crazy stuff in their backyard while their pet platypus fights an evil pharmacist looking dude, you can honestly believe anything it throws at you. And I'm really glad they were able to make this plot work. The way it concluded, however, I think was a little weak. I mean, Candace just kinda zapped him with the chickeninator, and that was it. For this being the main plot, I kinda think it was a little anticlimactic to have it just end like that. Thinking back to the Second Dimension movie, its resolution felt a lot more satisfying and achieved because they actually had to try to stop all the destruction. And now it's time for me to attempt to explain why I think the Candace plot resolution works very well. Maybe I've just got a weird mind, but the way this plot ended felt perfect. How? Well, it did exactly what you'd expect it to do, but in the context of the movie, it just fits together very well. The movie knows that this is not the main plot point, so it summed it up before everything else to leave space for what's coming.
And I am special. My brothers showed me that.
I feel like this mature self-awareness is a quite touching evolution of the show, which is known for its comedic self-awareness. I still think that was a nice little wrap-up of that, because even though it was predictable, obviously like they had to like get there. I don't know how to explain it. Hopefully I explain it better in the script, or if I'm lazy, I'll just use this part. What is going on with Phineas's eyes? What the heck? Wow. And again, the conflict with Super Big Doctor was simply concluded with a conversation. It can feel sort of out of character, but you gotta remember that these writers are absolute geniuses. When the motivation of a villain is killed, what's the purpose of continuing their plan? It's quite similar to how Second Dimension Doof turned good at the end of the movie. If I were to guess, I'd say it's a loose satire on how the antagonist works, and that's probably right for their last movie, but this one felt much more serious, which is quite helpful for the tone and evolution this movie was going for. But yeah, other than that, that's kinda all I have to say about this movie. Wait, what about the comedy? Once again, this franchise shows off its fourth wall breaking and wacky humor that serves very well in this movie. I don't think there were too many jokes that were super funny, but the ones that were hit very hard.
When you exceed the speed of light, reality, the very nature of your existence begins breaking down to its primal essence.
Oh my god.
Buford says something funny here.
Word,
And then we suddenly cut to us. You'd actually see Dan and I pitching this part.
Right, exactly like we are now.
Oh my god,
saying
this is
exactly
great.
what we're saying, right?
Push back into the storyboard.
We should never speak of this again.
Agreed.
And once again, the humor actually has a purpose in the plot. Wait.
The fools! They're telling us their plan.
No, the diversion is that there's no one coming from the right. Yeah, there's no one coming.
What?
Psych, we're over here.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that Doof and Isabella had a duet in this movie, and it wasn't even treated like something special because it just fits right into the story perfectly. Like, I can't even with this. By the way, you should totally watch Milo Murphy's Law because then you would understand this joke.
Playing Chop 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 by the Numbers Act.
Yes. To sum up all my thoughts, this movie delivered. It's a perfect evolution of the show we all loved as kids while remaining loyal to what made it so great. It gives you just about everything you want and more without being super serious with its message. I'll just let my past self conclude the video. I don't know if it was better than the Second Dimension movie. This was still really good. If I were to do like out of 10, I'm really bad at ranking movies. I'd give the Second Dimension like 8.5 out of 10. This one, I'd give it like a 7.9. It didn't disappoint me. It's you know, it's Phineas and Ferb. Time to go try and write a script for this and hopefully get this out as soon as possible.
Gas masks, quick.
If Phineas and Ferb can wear a mask, then you can too.